Listen to what the Schwab Network just said about Palantir.
Your thoughts on this name?
Yeah, Palantir is one of these companies, we were looking at Microsoft to continue the AI play, but we wanted something cheaper for our investors. So we're accumulating Palantir on a very limited basis right now. We're looking at the stock to make easily 18 to 20%, and that's being super conservative right now because it's in a sector of growth. This is a hot sector right now, but for how long? We think it's a long-term play. We think it could easily be 18 to 24 months, and we're going to far surpass that number that we came in. They have so many uses for their AI, but more importantly, the government and security uses.
Great to see here some bullish outlook on Palantir going into 2024, especially coming here from the Schwab Network. And as we move over to what's actually happened at Palantir for the first trading session today, down about 3 to 4%. We're going to be getting into the nitty gritty of what's been going on with Palantir, what we saw in terms of the first market correction for the year. Not a correction, more of a pullback. But what I mean by that, and in line with some of the stocks that we've seen on a decline here, is Palantir in a buy the dip situation? We're going to be analyzing that. Hit the like button, subscribe for daily videos, and of course, I'm not a financial advisor. I'm just collecting all the data and dispatching it to you. Now, pulling up back on the screen here, what you see, Palantir down about 3 to 4%. What we mentioned in yesterday's video was Palantir needed to hold this critical level of support at about the 17s. And the reason why this was a critical level of support is because look at this large gap that was created here after the Q3 earnings were reported. We had this gap that shot Palantir immediately from the 14s up to the 17s. So we did not have a lot of trading in this price zone in recent trading history. Now, as Palantir falls down here, and what we did have in terms of the global macroeconomic perspective is the NASDAQ down about 1.6%. A lot of this due to the outlook change that we've seen from analysts having a different rating on Apple. Being the biggest stock that there is, Apple having a correction here will largely affect some of these top indexes that are being tracked. Now, Palantir likes to comfortably trade what we've seen in the trading history between the high 13s and the mid 16s, as you can see right here. Recently testing these newer areas after that year-to-date high for 2023 was set at 2185. So Palantir coming back to the zone could likely happen. It is not too surprising if we see more of this pullback after the November and the Santa Claus rally, consolidating here and building more of a consolidational zone. This could be great accumulating price zones for people that are trying to dollar cost average, or for people that have had Palantir on their watch list and didn't want to buy it at 2185, because what we do know is Palantir does have a high valuation. But going back to that Schwab Network prediction from that wealth manager right there, and talking about what we do have is why do they think that Palantir still likely has 18 to a 20% growth on the conservative standpoint, even though we've already seen the explosion in 2023. And that number one reason that we have seen is demand really pushing these AI stocks to these newer highs. You can see that the demand for AI is likely to grow much larger. From this recent survey here from CNBC, this comes from the Motley Fool, saying that 55% of technology officers said that their companies would be investing in generative AI software. And we've talked about this, and lots of analysts have actually predicted the market share transition from a lot of different stocks and just money in general that will be coming into these AI stocks. It's great to see that Palantir is the leading competitor in terms of the industrial standard for AI, that we've already seen Palantir experience a substantial amount of growth, which is why the second reason here could be another reason we still see a continuation of momentum for Palantir, and that is the decline in the interest rates that we do have. We do know that the Federal Reserve have reported looking at making as many as 3 interest rate cuts during the year. What this means is that the actual lower rates means that there's a lower cost for businesses to acquire capital, which allows them to invest in more growth-like stocks, and even might be taking the bet on the AI boom, which is the big speculative hype and trendy category for 2024, considering what we saw in 2023. And going on to this, Palantir, even though that Wall Street has given it a high bar to achieve, Palantir continues to beat that bar. And we've seen this with the continued profitability and also achieving that fourth quarter of GAAP GAAP profitability. We talked about this a lot. The S&P 500 inclusion now, they have the criteria met. Now it's just a matter of time on when will they actually be included into the S&P 500. Nobody knows this answer, but what we've seen on a historical perspective is usually stocks that do get included into the S&P 500 usually have an increase of about 5% in valuation, just due to the buying pressure from all the different ETFs and funds that do actually just track these index funds, the S&P 500. So with that being said, and going on to, is Palantir a buy right now in this buy the dip situation, is really looking at the fundamentals behind Palantir and what we've seen with their actual changes is important to make a note of here. But I think before we make that final conclusion, is that with that, Palantir has typically relied on the government being its biggest market, as Palantir nearly gets 60% of its revenue from government agencies. But we've seen a recent change in Palantir from its last quarter earnings report is the AIP bootcamp and the AIP software that is really starting to take a dive into the private clientele. And with that being said, we saw an increase in the commercial revenues and also the commercial customer count. Both of those increased year over year. And as Palantir continues to forge these very important partnerships with different types of private clients, we've seen this with PwC, we've seen this with Plasticred, we've seen this even here expanding its cloud computing partnership with Microsoft that targets the government agencies here, but still diversifying and building upon these different private corporations allows Palantir to diversify its revenue generators and also its commercial clients, not just relying on these governmental contracts. Because what we've seen specifically even from Palantir saying that these governmental contracts can be lumpy. And one thing to note is that the reason we had that recent reversal that actually started the pullback in Palantir from those kind of 20s areas in terms of price targets was that recent governmental contract that was renewed at a lower valuation and also a lower time period in terms of the actual service contract, due to new incoming vendors that probably do have competing prices trying to outprice Palantir. Now, with that, one thing that keeps me bullish is going to be a lot of competition coming into 2024 in terms of the AI stocks and AI companies and that will compete against Palantir, is that Palantir has a ton of cash on hand with really zero debt. So their financials are looking very healthy. And what this does mean is that Palantir has a lot of capital on hand to invest to keep continuing its actual developmental technologies that helps improve this disruptive technology that we call AI. So the fact that they're able to be a leading edge and have the resources to continue that, I think makes it a number one competitor against a lot of the other stocks. And even though that Palantir has only been publicly traded over the last 3 years, it has a lot of skin in the game because it's been in this type of industry for about 2 decades. And what we do have also on top of here is that Palantir says that its first board meeting is going to be in 2024. And this is actually going to be in Israel right here, coming from an announcement on Twitter saying that they stand with Israel, from a post here noting on Twitter and talking about gathering here. This is going to be the first meeting of the new year. We're going to be keeping you guys updated on what we get from this, but it's great to see here that Palantir is working on a region that has never been more vital, and it will continue to do so. And I never agree, and I like the confidence coming out of Palantir going into the new year with the great basically announcements that will be coming up throughout the year. What we do have in terms of options is actually a decent amount of call volatility at about that $17 and the $18 strike price for contracts that do expire at the end of the week. Decent amount of puts though. Calls are outpacing that, but don't ignore the puts here, is that there's basically a mix on what we do think that is going to be happening with the market and Palantir specifically by the end of the week. So definitely, as a conclusion, I think Palantir could still continue to have a pullback here, but that could be a very attractive price for people that are looking at Palantir, keeping it on their watch list, or either just trying to dollar cost average and trying to accumulate more shares. Like I said, Palantir does have that large consolidation zone between the mid 13s and the mid 16s, and possibly gearing up. Palantir could be loading up a lot of different types of information and working on a lot of new innovative types of projects to help push it back past that 20s. As we've seen, the conservative outlook for Palantir is about an 18 to 20% growth, and I kind of stand by that. I think Palantir will see the 20s again in 2024. What do you guys think down in the comments? Let me know. And of course, we're going to be expanding more content on this channel. If you're new to the channel, welcome, and you finished your first day of the trading day of the new year. Make sure you stay tuned. Subscribe for daily videos. If you want to see different types of stocks being analyzed, let me know down in the comments and I will get that going for you guys. Take care, peace out, and catch you guys later.